Take a look at this. $1.7 trillion US budget deficit shattered in 2023 as the IMF issues a warning on America's worrying and deteriorating fiscal trajectory. I don't want to be the guy to say it, but this financial system a lot of you guys speak of, it's not lasting that much longer. I mean, here's, for example, legendary investor Jim Rogers, a renowned American investor and co-founder of the Quantum Fund with George Soros. If you don't know, get back to the drawing board and take a proper look. Now, you might say he is slightly biased, and I'll always bring up those points as he has written books about the bull in China, and particularly is bullish on Asia's longevity and the long-term economic prospects. And so, he's properly invested there, and so it does also make sense he's going to be more bearish towards the US dollar, more bullish towards the Chinese yuan, or things of this sort. Then again, he most likely is putting his money where his mouth is because he can understand the philosophy there, right? Decline of the US dollar dominance eyes Chinese yuan as a contender. I'm not saying that the Chinese yuan is going to be next on the chopping block, or in line, I should say. All I'm saying is, indeed, we can all see a lot of these BRICS countries, for example, which is now growing, the alliance and those who want to be in there, are stopping their reliance on the US dollar. We don't know exactly what a successor would be, but what we do know is that the US dollar is on its way out of being the world reserve currency. Once more, it could still take years. It's not over just quite yet. And there's a lot of different catalysts which could come into place that could change the paradigm really, really quickly. But it could also just slowly fade out over the next 6 or so years. And there was something else that was quite interesting. Anthony Scaramucci has argued Bitcoin's market potential reaching $15 trillion. He criticizes the broken US monetary system and government overspending, as again, debt is going by these crazy numbers right now. It doesn't make sense. Nobody understands exactly how it can be done. Nobody understands how the government can have such a crazy deficit and it doesn't collapse. It's because there's just so much trust in the system. But the reason we like crypto is because no trust is necessary. You can't borrow if you can never pay it back, and, well, even guys like Jamie Dimon, CEO of 𝗕𝗓𝗪𝗏, says this is the most dangerous time the world has ever seen, or rather, in decades, and a lot of us have ever seen. You gotta understand, I talk about world currency a lot, the world reserve currency. Everybody alive that will watch this video, has not seen a different world reserve currency, and a matter of fact, nobody alive could have ever said that investing in the US stock market or anything US dollar related was a bad idea because it's done well periodically, but it's done well over the last 100 and something years. Now, that change, though, is something that we can see brewing based on history, but if you're inside the system, inside the stock market fully, you might delusion yourself thinking, this time is going to be different, and that's what nags a lot of people. This time is going to be different, they think. It's similar to a bull run. People are like, no, this bull run is going to last forever. This bull run is going to last for a longer time. Same thing for a bear run. This time it's really dead. This time it's going to die out. Very often, if you're in it, you think it's going to remain that way forever. With a bull market, with a bear market, with the US stock market, with the US dollar, because you've not seen any different sort of thing for so long. JPMorgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon has warned of the most dangerous time the world has seen in decades. The executive explained that the war in Ukraine, compounded by last week's attacks, may have far-reaching impacts on energy and food markets, global trade, and geopolitical relationships. And indeed, that does mess up your market a little bit. We've talked before about all the politicians that had to benefit and all that, but I don't want to mix these two right now. All we gotta say is, this is one of the most turbulent times we have seen in decades. And a bad question, or I guess a sad question is, how would that affect all our investments? I mean, to a certain degree, crypto should shine because any conflict really is another bullish sign for crypto that you shouldn't trust one government, you shouldn't attach to a country because money should be free. Last week, Dimon explained that there are 2 extraordinary storm clouds happening today that may have bad outcomes for the US economy. He similarly said that fiscal money being spent in the US is so big, the largest in peacetime ever, with very high deficits and quantitative tightening we've never had. The executive also recently warned of stagflation, and the Federal Reserve could raise interest to 7%, emphasizing that stagflation is the worst outcome economically. If that happens, you're going to see a lot of people struggling, which of course does make sense. Then again, you are going to see people struggling regardless to adapt cryptocurrency. The G20 calls for swift and coordinated implementation of IMF crypto roadmap. Again, all these guys want to know what's going on, what's going to happen next, and all these guys want to get their hands on it quick. You got to understand, right? A roadmap like this doesn't necessarily mean too much for the average Joe, but for these, I'd say, the ones higher up on the political spectrum, it can matter a ton. We call for swift and coordinated implementation of the G20 roadmap, including implementation of policy frameworks, outreach beyond G20 jurisdictions, global coordination, cooperation, and information sharing, and addressing data gaps. We ask the IMF and FSB to provide regular and structured updates on the progress of implementation of the G20 roadmap on crypto assets. We support the ongoing work and global implementation of the FATF standards for crypto assets, the G20 finance ministers and central bank governors further said in their communique. The G20 leaders last month stated in the declaration that they endorsed the recommendation by the IMF and FSB for regulation, supervision, and oversight of crypto asset activities and markets and of global stablecoin arrangements. They additionally urged the FSB and other standard-setting bodies to promote the effective and timely implementation of these recommendations in a consistent manner globally to avoid regulatory arbitrage. And that's that thing, right? None of these countries want to, I think, right, outright ban it because they understand, well, if we accept it over in our country, we're going to get a lot of money coming in. But you don't want to be that country that acts as the loophole. You don't want to be that country if you're trying to be very properly built into the system where a lot of these guys go to escape the other countries. You understand my drift? Let's say, for example, you're inside this little system and all these other countries are against something, but you've all of a sudden for the last couple of months been very progressive towards it. Now you're going to either have to make your users, your country people, very dissatisfied because you're going to do a 180 switch to comply with the rest of the group, or you're going to have to continue on the way you were doing it, which is now going to be against your group. So if the group provides regulatory guidance, you can kind of follow along and not be the odd one out, unless you are, for some reason, trying to pinpoint you are. Most of the time that doesn't happen because you don't want to be exiled. Then again, like I've already been saying, everything that's happening, I don't want to go too far into it, but everything that's happening right now in terms of these conflicts is playing an interesting role on the crypto landscape. It makes you think just how high it can go in terms of market cap. I mean, here, 𝗓𝗪𝗪𝗏 said, well, $15 trillion. Is it really that much? No, it's not really. And how broken the system is, it's really freaking stupid the way these things work. And he basically says Bitcoin will most likely be more valuable than gold because it has better characteristics, but still follows kind of a similar principle to it all. If you kind of combine all the articles I've just shown you, though, and all the thoughts from these thought leaders, really, the person going extremely bullish on the US or US dollar is an interesting one, right? Why would that be the best way to go about things? I just can't fully grasp that idea. Debt is crazy. Conflict is crazy. So again, trusting a government, that line is becoming less and less. You understand that all these guys just want to be the same. They all want to keep control, and they're all thinking of how to do it the best way while not upsetting their friends. Then again, in the back of things, you all know everything is turning to shit. It really is. Everybody knows it. And well, from a perspective that I think most of you guys will agree with, crypto fills that gap. You know, you can pick different cryptos where Bitcoin fixes this issue, Ethereum fixes a different issue, XRP fixes a different issue. We talked a little bit earlier about how XRP right now is setting themselves up for real world asset tokenization and how Ethereum is basically bridging so much more than people realize. At the same end, Bitcoin replacing something like gold is just the proper next step, and it acted more like a stable coin store of value rather than actually a means of payment. As again, BlackRock and all these guys join in, Bitcoin's status in the grand scheme of things will also change. And like Edward Snowden said, and a lot of people agree with this, Bitcoin, right? The idea was good and it was revolutionary to start like a new world and a new world scheme. But the vision that it originally had is going as well. The adoption scale was most likely never intended. It's adopted by so many people around the world, so many institutions, and there's so much demand for this sound money that no government controls that it might shift a little bit from the people's money, peer-to-peer money, to just something people invest in to escape the traditional system, to hold on forever for the grandkids, and on and on and on. Just like gold, but then having better characteristics. But do understand that eventually coins like XRP can really take over in the payments realm, while Ethereum can really become the platformer of the world in a lot of different ways, while Bitcoin does end up not really moving as much anymore, because the more that major institutions own, the less liquid it's going to be. And it could be that in the next 10 years or so, only 1 million out of the 21 million Bitcoin end up being in the normal circulation, while the majority of it is just being held in the back end. But that's an interesting philosophy to sometimes think about. If all these guys just want to have it forever as a stable coin, it's just, like a little something to hold in the back of your purse, a little underneath your, if you have a bag, right? Sometimes there's like a little coin in the bottom of a bag somewhere. If that's where your Bitcoin go, to a place where you kind of never really touch them anymore, how useful does it become for payments, and will that still be a thing? Or will it be more like gold, where you can use gold to pay, but you won't really? It's sometimes interesting to think about. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you go ahead and press that like button. It would be greatly appreciated. I'll see you guys again in another crypto video later today.